Wu Gunseng's formidable intelligence and rapid mastery of martial arts had made learning nearly effortless for him. What others took years to master, he learned in months. Martial arts lost its novelty. Women, however, captured his interest. His indulgence led to a tragedy. A woman he forcibly took ultimately committed suicide, causing her family to collapse. Even now, holding a female disciple brought no comfort. His anger simmered beneath the surface. The assassin's attack reignited that anger. "Did that bitch's father send you?" he roared, mistaking Pyo for an assassin sent to avenge the woman. Pyo remained silent, fueling Wu Gunseng's fury. He unleashed his full repertoire of Qing Cheng sword techniques. The basement became a storm of blade strikes. He kicked a rolling sword, redirecting it into Wu Gunseng's dagger. Catching the deflected sword mid-air, Pyo swung, intercepting the relentless 72 sword waves, one of Wu Gunseng's signature secret techniques. The 72 sword waves were not the strongest Qing Cheng technique, but Wu Gunseng had mastered them completely. For Pyo, however, it was a key to survival. He had learned the technique while training in the underground cavity, knowing its weaknesses intimately. Pyo thrust forward. A precise strike, guided by instinct, pierced Wu Gunseng's chest. Blood gushed from Wu Gunseng's mouth, soaking Pyo's face. "How can you use the 72 sword waves?" Wu Gunseng recognized the technique's execution, but Pyo did not answer. He had poured every ounce of energy into this gambit, relying on Wu Gunseng performing the 72 sword waves to create an opening. It was the first practical use of his thunder-splitting technique, a dangerous gamble that had left him seriously wounded. Pyo glanced at the woman he had subdued, then exited through the ventilation shaft. Now, it was a race against time. He had to escape the Qingcheng sect before they discovered him. The roar of Chongil echoed through the underground chamber as Jin Guang ran upstairs to announce, "It's an assassin. An assassin has killed senior brother Wu Gunseng." An emergency bell rang shrilly through the quiet Qingcheng sect. Startled disciples who had been resting peacefully rushed out in confusion. Moments later came the shocking news. Wu Gunseng had been attacked and killed by an assassin. "Find the assassin, now! Don't let him escape!" Martial artists from across Mount Qingcheng poured out in all directions, scouring the mountain for the killer who had slain Wu Gunseng. A disciple murdered within the sect grounds. It was an unprecedented tragedy. Wu Gunseng had been a promising talent, and his death by assassination turned the Qingcheng sect upside down. In particular, Wu Jinpyong, who had lost his only son, and Yongjin, who had lost the future of the Qingcheng sect, were consumed by grief and fury. They gazed down at Wu Gunseng's body with wretched eyes. Wu Jinpyong fell to his knees before his son's corpse, sobbing uncontrollably. A man once as unshakable as stone, now broken. The elders of the Qingcheng sect looked on, their faces dark with sorrow. "Oh, primordial god! How can our sect endure such an ordeal?" Yongjin closed his eyes and stroked his white beard. Then Wu Zhongjin, the elder below him in rank, approached. "Senior brother?" "Speak, junior brother. We must deal with that child." Mu Zhongjin's gaze fell upon the unconscious female disciple lying nearby. Yongjin frowned deeply. "What do you mean? She's one of our disciples too." "You can't possibly mean. The honor of Gunseng is at stake," Mu Zhongjin cut him off coldly. "If word spreads that he brought a female disciple into his closed-door training, his name will be dragged through the mud. He's already dead, so shouldn't we at least protect his reputation?" "What's done is done. Gunseng was Qingcheng's brightest star. His death endangers our sect's standing. If we lose face now, our future collapses with him." Though his tone was icy, his eyes betrayed sorrow. He had loved Wu Gunseng like a son, the prodigy who might have led Qingcheng into a new golden age. Now the future was gone, and the only thing left was damage control. Clearly, someone orchestrated this, someone who profits from Qingcheng's downfall. "Junior brother, that's not right. The sect's reputation isn't worth more than a life." The mild-mannered Mu Huajin stepped forward, trying to intervene. But Mu Zhongjin turned to the other elders. "Is that what you all think? Will you stand by while our reputation sinks into the dirt? If this continues, we'll fall behind Shaolin and Wudang. We'll be nothing but a minor sect." No one replied. Yet their eyes said enough. Yongjin and Mu Huajin exchanged troubled looks. Then, a voice cut through the silence. "I'll do it." Wu Jinpyong had risen, the bloodied sword from his son's chest clutched in his hand. "Junior brother!" Yongjin's cry came too late. Clang! Wu Jinpyong plunged the blade into the unconscious girl's chest. She spat blood and fell lifeless. "Junior brother Wu, what have you done?" Yongjin tore the sword from his grasp, horrified. Wu Jinpyong collapsed, wailing. "What else was I supposed to do? Gunseng wasn't just Qingcheng's hope, he was everything to me. How could I let his honor crumble before my eyes? Curse me if you must. I've dedicated my life to this sect. If you can't stomach what I've done, then I'll leave it." Muryongjin and Mu Huajin could only sigh. The deed was done, and now they had to contain it. We must catch the assassin. Yes, find the culprit, and whoever hired him. Have all the sects in Sichuan cooperate. Any who refuse will be treated as enemies. Soon after, word spread across the province, and all of Sichuan erupted into chaos. Meanwhile, at the Ame sect, Abbess Guwasata's eyes trembled as she read the message tied to a bird's leg, a letter from the Qingcheng sect requesting cooperation. Request, yes, but given Qingcheng's power in Sichuan, it was more of a command. The letter revealed that Wu Gunsang had been assassinated. Is this true? An assassin killed Wu Gunsang. It was almost unthinkable. But since the message came directly from Qingcheng, there was no doubt. Unbelievable. The letter crumpled in her clenched fist. Master, is it true? Asked Zhonghua, one of her closest disciples, one of the few who knew the full story. Guwasata's fury exploded. Damn it, we set an inescapable net to trap them, yet the assassin slipped through and killed Wu Gunsang instead. Bang! The desk shattered under her fist. Zhonghua, Keelsim, and Yang Seal ran froze, afraid to breathe. Her grand plan was in ruins. Wu Gunsang's talent had terrified her, the gap between Amei and Qingcheng growing impossible to bridge. So she had secretly hired the Blood Shadow group to assassinate him, paying an astronomical 500,000 gold. But before the plan could unfold, she conceived another idea. Yang Sealran, her disciple, beautiful, intelligent, and sharp, could be used instead. If the marriage had succeeded, Amei could have dominated Qingcheng within a decade. Now, 7 years of scheming were destroyed by a single assassin. We can't leave that assassin alive, Zhonghua said grimly. They may know too much. Take the disciples, Guwasata ordered. Join Qingcheng's hunt, find and kill that assassin. Yes, master. Zhonghua and the others rushed out. As Yongxiel Ran turned to follow, Guwasata's cold voice stopped her. Now that the marriage is off, you must be delighted, aren't you? Yongxiel Ran turned back, calm and expressionless. Of course not. How could I be glad that I lost my husband? Husband, we were betrothed. That makes him my husband. She bowed silently and walked away. The whole world was tinged with gold. The rice fields before harvest swayed like waves in the wind, and the farmers smiled happily. Their faces were tanned by the harsh sun, their bodies drenched in sweat, yet their laughter was genuine. The harvest was near. The end of the long, arduous journey that had begun in spring was finally in sight. That was why the farmers' laughter was so full of life. None of them noticed that someone was quietly stealing the clothes they had left on the roadside. It was Piowol, walking calmly as he changed into a farmer's attire. He hung a sickle at his waist and walked like one of them. One of the many things he had learned to survive in the shadows was imitation. It was So Gyoksan who had taught him that art. So Gyoksan came from a traveling performance troupe. He was a master at transforming his face in an instant, able to become anyone or anything. But he had told Piowol something crucial. An audience isn't moved by just a changed face. You have to become the person behind it, think, move, and breathe as they do. He approached the guards casually, face calm and unassuming. Stop! He looked startled, the picture of a frightened peasant. We're searching for a criminal who's committed a grave sin. State your identity. My name is Yang Chuel. I live in the nearby village. I'm just heading home after a day's work. This early? You're done already? Yes, sir. The weeds are all cut. Today's work is done. The guards exchanged uncertain looks. They couldn't just harass an innocent civilian, no matter the situation. Piowol looked every bit the part, mud-stained, sunburned, exhausted. But Gu Yonsong, the warrior's leader, studied him closely. A disciple of the Ame sect, Gu Yonsong was known for his sharp mind and keen eyes, even earning the favor of Guhasata, the abbess of 9 calamities. The guards stepped aside, just as Piowol was about to walk past. Wait a moment, Gu Yonsheng's eyes narrowed. Why is your sickle so clean? If you were cutting weeds, there should be traces left on it. For the briefest instant, Piowol's eyes flickered, and that was all Gu Yonsheng needed. You're the assassin the abbess warned us about. Attack. The warriors lunged forward. Piowol twisted aside, avoiding their strikes with deadly grace. Abbess of 9 calamities. No one had ever mentioned a name before. Whoever this abbess was, she clearly had a deeper involvement. Piowol's plan to flee shifted in an instant. Now he needed answers. The sickle that had betrayed him earlier sliced through the air. Blood sprayed the dirt road. Another soldier fired a firecracker into the sky, the alarm signal. Reinforcements would soon arrive. Piowol had to end this quickly. The man fell, screaming. In an instant, Piowol was on top of him, wrapping the silk thread around his neck. The line bit into flesh, blood trickling down. Spare me! Who is the abbess of 9 calamities? Guhasata. She's the leader of the Ime sect. Did she order this directly? Yes. All of us were told to assist the Qingcheng sect in capturing the assassin, no matter what. Since when were Ime and Qingcheng allies? They weren't. We were like cats and dogs before. That's why I found it strange. Ogu Yonzong spoke quickly, trying to stall for time. hoping reinforcements would arrive before he died. Pyeolwol listened carefully, memorizing every word. Then everything clicked. A woman who knew Wu Gunseng, a woman who envied him, someone patient enough to weave a 7-year plan, rich enough to fund it, and based in Sichuan. All clues pointed to one person, Gu Hasata, the abyss of 9 calamities. No proof, just instinct. But Pyeolwol trusted his intuition more than any evidence. Over there, it's him. More soldiers arrived, following the firework signal. Gu Yonsong smirked. It's over. If you want to live, release. The silk thread sliced through his neck like tofu. Gu Yonseong died with that smug grin still on his face. Pyeolwol retrieved the Cheonjumsa line and stood. Bastard, don't move. Shouts echoed as the soldiers advanced. More firecrackers burst across the fields. Pyeolwol turned and sprinted into the distance. The assassin has broken through the Qingyang Pavilion's encirclement and escaped. At the disciples' report, Zhanghua's expression hardened like steel. The Qingyang Pavilion was composed of Ime Sect disciples. Though their numbers were small, their skills were formidable, inheriting the refined martial arts of Ime. For their defensive net to be broken so swiftly meant that the assassin's strength was truly exceptional. But Zhanghua's grim face wasn't due merely to his skill. The assassin's ability had already been proven when he killed Wu Gunseng, the Qingcheng sect prodigy once hailed as the greatest talent in Sichuan's younger generation. That much Zhenghua already knew. The real issue was that the assassin was growing stronger. Zhenghua turned to her disciples. Everyone, pursue the assassin, run with all your might and capture him. No, we can't catch him like that. A calm voice cut through her command. It was a woman of dazzling beauty. Yang Seal ran. Zhanghua's expression darkened, to be contradicted by her youngest junior sister in front of others. Unthinkable. What do you mean by that? The assassin's ability far surpasses our expectations. He slipped through the inescapable net proof enough. If we chase him blindly, we'll only see his back forever. Then what do you propose? We predict where he's heading next. And you think you know that? Zhanghua's tone was sharp, but Yang Seal Ran remained composed. I can't say the exact location, she said, but I can narrow it down. Batang borders the Western Highlands, Young Sol Ran continued. He'll pass through there. And why do you think that? Some fish return to the river of their birth after living in the sea. It's called the homing instinct. I believe the assassin shares that instinct. He'll return to where he was made. I've never met him personally, she said softly, but the place he knows best, the place he'd consider safest, is the one where he was raised. So you're certain he'll head toward Batang? Yes. He's going home. Zhanghua exhaled slowly. Everyone knew that Yang Xiao Ran was gifted, but Zhanghua hadn't expected her insight to cut this deep. She really has everything. A twinge of jealousy twisted in her chest, but she buried it quickly. The other disciples were watching. She couldn't afford to show weakness. You make a fair point, Zhanghua said calmly. Very well, we'll follow your advice. But if we lose him because of you, you'll take full responsibility. Understood. We'll ride for Batang and wait for him there. Yes, senior sister. Zhanghua mounted her horse, and with a sharp command, dozens of Ime disciples spurred their mounts forward, charging toward Batang at full speed. Meanwhile, Pyeolwol's face was pale with exhaustion. Even with his extraordinary stamina, endless fighting, and sleepless flight had pushed him to the edge. His body was covered in shallow wounds from breaking through the inescapable net. He had tried to avoid combat as much as possible, but against such overwhelming numbers, that had been impossible. Someone in the Ame must possess great intelligence, otherwise they couldn't have intercepted him so predictably. He wondered who was predicting his moves, but there was no time to investigate. A different, heavier sound rang out. Pyeolwol recognized it as Mu Jongjin's attack. He knelt immediately, not daring to fight. A powerful energy grazed his head and cut a tree into Mu Jongjin's sword energy. The force made his hair stand on end. Zhonghua joined the assault. She attacked Pyeolwol as if he were her sworn enemy, but her intervention actually hindered Mu Jongjin. Her uncoordinated strike interfered with his approach. Mu Jongjin clicked his tongue in annoyance. He wanted Pyeolwol captured alive, dragged back to Qingcheng so the assassin could reveal the mastermind behind the killing. That was why, even when he attacked, he held back from killing. Zhanghua unleashed her internal energy without mercy. If she landed a hit, she planned to finish him. Pyeolwol was in grave danger, yet he continued to evade them by narrow margins. Everyone, climb down, we must catch him. The disciples descended without hesitation. Zhonghua ordered the Ame to follow, intent on finding the assassin and killing him. They descended what felt like hundreds of meters. Mu Zhongjin landed with an exclamation. Torches lit the cavernous space and revealed a vast underground complex so huge its edges could not be seen. The martial artists who had come down before him were as astonished as he was. Zhonghua's eyes widened as she realized what they were looking at. Buildings fashioned in the style of the Qingcheng sect. Someone had recreated Qingcheng's architecture underground. How dare they? She began. Mu Zhongjin's expression hardened as the realization sank in. Those bastards, one disciple shouted. They've been preparing this for a long time. Someone must be supporting them. They must be annihilated. Qing Ming spoke through clenched teeth to Mu Zhengjin. We must find who's behind this and make them pay. First capture the assassin, Mu Zhengjin replied. Bring him back alive. Do you understand? Capture him. Yes, master. Search thoroughly. This is his turf. Be careful. Enjing Ming nodded and led his men deeper into the complex. Zhonghua stood beside Mu Zhengjin. I'll lead our disciples and search elsewhere. Capture him alive, he repeated. Pardon, she asked. It doesn't matter if you cut off both his arms. Bring him back alive, Mu Zhengjin said coldly. If the assassin dies, I will be furious. Someone dared to look down on our sect. I will make them pay, even if the perpetrators are one of the 5 great sects. Zhanghua swallowed. Even in the dark, Mu Zhengjin's eyes were like burning coals. His suspicion extended even to Ma. Only a few, Zhanghua and Yangxiel, ran among them, knew the truth. The others simply responded to the tense atmosphere. Find and eliminate the scoundrel before Qing Cheng does, Zhanghua told the Ma disciples. Leave no trail. Yes. After entering the underground cave, an undefinable chill had settled over her. The darkness felt watchful. It was as if the place itself belonged to someone else. This was his domain. Here, they were not the hunters. He was. The warriors of Qingsheng and Amei had followed him precisely as he'd intended. He had led them here on purpose. Look around. Be careful, everyone. Their cautious voices echoed faintly through the darkness. They whispered to one another, but they couldn't fool Piowol's ears. Silently, he melted into the shadows. Soon a group of Ime warriors appeared, moving in teams of 5. They advanced slowly, torches held high, light flickering across their wary faces. One of them pointed at the spot where Piowol had eaten. He's close. Be careful. He's an assassin. Stay sharp. We never know when he'll strike. They tried to watch in every direction, but the torchlight barely pushed back the dark. Beyond its reach, their sight failed. Even trained martial artists felt fear in the pitch-black void. The darkness gnawed at their imagination, infecting their minds like a slow plague. Damn it, one muttered, trying to shake off the anxiety. A strangled gasp followed. His eyes went wide. Something sharp was around his neck. He tried to cry out, but his throat was constricted. He reached toward his comrades, then was suddenly yanked upward, silently vanishing into the darkness. The others didn't notice. Piowol had him. In his hand was the Qianjiamza thread. The man's neck had been crushed. He was already dead. After hiding the body, Piowol joined the rest of the group, moving as if he were one of them. He walked like them, breathed like them, matching their rhythm perfectly. None of the Ame noticed that their numbers had changed. Then the warrior in front of him turned to speak and froze. He saw an unfamiliar face. Before he could finish, Piowol's blade pierced his neck, the same sword he'd taken from the first victim. The others turned at the sound, just in time to see their comrade collapse, blood pouring from his throat. Piowol had vanished again. Bastard. They slashed wildly into the dark, blades slicing through empty air. A scream burst out. Another fell, his torch clattering to the floor. In moments, 3 were dead. Terror froze the survivors. They couldn't understand how death had come so swiftly, unseen. Another cry. Another life extinguished. The last warrior standing screamed, "Come out, you cowardly assassin! Stop hiding!" He swung his sword madly, desperate to ward off the unseen killer. The torchlight wavered and dimmed. His voice cracked, echoing off the walls. He was losing his mind. The flame guttered low, sputtering toward death. Panic filled his face. That weak light was his last lifeline. He knew what would happen when it died. Please, no, but his plea couldn't stop it. The torch went out. Footsteps echoed, measured, deliberate. Piowol didn't bother to hide anymore. The darkness belonged to him. The man spun, trembling. The echoes made it impossible to tell where the sound came from. Though he was supposed to be the prey, in this darkness, Piowol had become the hunter. King Ming illuminated the ground with his torch, searching for traces of Piowol, but no footprints remained. It was almost impossible to track anyone here. Over 200 people had entered, their steps overlapping and erasing all signs. This is dangerous. This place is his domain. The moment Qingming stepped into the cave, he'd felt it. The faint scent of Piowol embedded in the walls, the air itself steeped in his presence. He had lived here for years. He brought us here on purpose, Qingming realized, a chill running down his spine. He plans to fight to the end in a place he knows best. Fear crept into him. Piowol's martial skill wasn't the terrifying part. It was his patience and cunning. There were plenty of strong martial artists in the world, but few with his endurance or mind. We'll lose more people than expected, Qingming thought grimly. Then, a spark of ambition flared. If I capture him, my name in Qingcheng will rise. His nickname, the sword-crazed Bloodwolf, was well earned. Piowol might be mad, but so was he. All of you, stay close. Move in pairs. Always check each other's positions. If we leave even the smallest gap, he'll strike. The Qingcheng disciples answered firmly, though tension gripped their faces. They outnumbered and outmatched their enemy in skill, yet the suffocating dark gnawed at their nerves. Qingming knew it too, but there was no other choice. Humanity fears what it cannot see. No matter the cost, he thought, we must catch him. He stepped forward carefully. A faint metallic click echoed underfoot. Qingming's expression changed instantly. It's a trap. Dodge. Auras erupted from both walls. Swords flashed as the Qingsheng warriors deflected the storm of arrows. They managed to block most of them, though several were wounded, but none relaxed. That was only the beginning. A grinding sound rumbled through the cavern mechanisms, awakening after years of stillness. "Watch out!" Qingming shouted. He didn't yet realize the traps were far from over. The same infernal mechanisms the children had endured for 7 years were now roaring to life once more, reawakened by Piowol himself. Mu Zhongjin walked through the underground passage with a deep frown on his face. Originally, he should have been moving with his disciples, but he had chosen to go alone. This doesn't make sense. There's no way the assassins built such a vast facility underground just to kill Wu Gunsang. No matter how he thought about it, it was unnatural. Wu Gunsang was indeed a well-known martial artist within Sichuan province, but his fame was still limited to that region. There were many others in the Central Plains whose names reached farther, disciples from Shaolin, Manhwa, or Wudang, each already standing on the threshold of becoming great masters. He soon came across a massive iron door. Carefully, he scanned the area, broke the rusted lock, and pushed it open. Inside was what seemed to be the living quarters of the Blood Shadow Group's instructors. Dust, old bedding, rotting wood, all left behind exactly as it was. Behind a cracked cabinet, he found a secret compartment. When he pulled it open, a small pile of old papers was revealed. Using the flickering light of his torch, Muzhongjin began to read. Then his eyes widened and his face twisted in fury. These bastards. It was a commission contract. Confidential request. To the captain of the Blood Shadow Group. Target, Wu Gunsang, duration, 7 years reward, 500,000 gold condition, no trace linking to the Blood Shadow Group. For just 500,000 gold, his voice trembled. You destroyed the brightest future of the Qingqing sect. Wu Gunsang had been the hope of their sect, a blazing flame destined to light up their path for generations. But for a mere bag of gold, that light had been snuffed out. Mu Zhongjin roared, his qi exploding outward in fury. Boom. The wall before him shattered under the force of his outburst. Dust and debris filled the air. He hadn't even intended to strike it that hard, but the wall crumbled anyway. Through the collapsing stone, something unusual caught his attention. A faint sound, a hissing noise. Mu Zhongjin turned his torch toward it and froze. What is this? Beyond the broken wall was a deep pit, and within it, countless snakes. Large ones, small ones, black, yellow, red, wriggling together in a grotesque mass, hissing and coiling over one another. They had likely been hibernating until now, but his aura had woken them. Some of the larger ones began to climb up the pit walls, but they were slow, sluggish from years of sleep. Mu Zhongjin, still wary, moved forward cautiously. On a small stone table beside the pit lay something covered in thick dust. He brushed it off and found a yellow booklet. When he read the title, his pupils dilated. 9, Demon Style. Even in the ancient histories, echoed in his memory. Few in this era even remembered it. Only those who studied the oldest scrolls of Jiangshu's bloodiest wars would know. The 9 Demon Style had perished alongside the 13 tribes of the Demon Sect, a name once synonymous with terror itself. In the wars known as the Heaven Demon War, the great sects had united to exterminate them. So this was their base. The assassins must have stumbled upon the ruins and made use of it. The booklet described bizarre poison experiments and strange creatures, mutated snakes born of alchemy and key manipulation. They must have collected these snakes from all over the continent to study them. Everything made sense now. The Blood Shadow Group hadn't built this place. They had inherited it. It was a nightmare. Seeing Piowol move in the darkness, both Zhonghua and Yang Seal ran finally understood what a true assassin was. Piowol wasn't merely an assassin, he was something beyond that. He had transcended the very limits of human stealth and lethality. Like a shadow given life, he tore through the Ime sect's ranks, exploiting every weakness, every flaw in their formation. Sometimes he strangled his victims barehanded. Other times, he cut them down with weapons torn from the corpses at his feet. Driven to madness by the loss of their comrades, they swung their blades like lunatics. Piowol avoided each strike, but with every dodge, his stamina drained faster. He suppressed his ragged breathing and fixed his gaze on Zhonghua. From the beginning, he hadn't intended to kill them all. His true target was only the leaders, Zhonghua and those commanding the Ime forces. He moved closer, his steps silent, his presence erased completely. Like a cat stalking its prey, Piowol merged with the dark until even the air around him forgot he existed. Zhonghua was on edge, every nerve taut, yet she still didn't sense him. He didn't know her exact rank in the Ime sect, but given her authority, he knew she was crucial. Killing her would deliver a heavy blow to Guhasata, the abbess of the 9 calamities herself. It's a pity she didn't come in person, but this will do. Time was not on his side. If the Qingqing warriors arrived before he finished, his advantage would vanish. He had to strike now. Piowol drew his qi to the tips of his 10 fingers, his most lethal weapons. He could have used a sword, but nothing was as natural to him as his bare hands. 72 sword wave. The technique exploded forth, invisible blades of ki slicing through the darkness toward Zhanghua. Zhanghua's instincts screamed a warning. In a flash, she deflected the attack, her reaction almost inhumanly fast. Her chauri, infused with her qi, lashed out like a storm. It was no mere ceremonial tool now, it was a deadly weapon that made even the darkness tremble. But Pyo-wol didn't retreat. The kauri grazed his left shoulder, tearing flesh and muscle apart. Blood poured down in sheets, but Pyo-wol didn't stop. He pushed forward and struck. Zhanghua screamed. Her chauri fell from her hand as she clutched her right eye, blood gushing between her fingers. Pyo-wol's attack had stolen her sight, her right eye destroyed. But before he could finish her, a flash of silver cut across his vision. A sword pierced into his side. It was Yang Solran's blade. In that instant, when Pyo-wol lunged for Zhanghua, Yang Solran had unleashed the Ime Sect's secret technique. He'd been too focused on the kill to avoid it. If not for that strike, Zhanghua's life would have ended in a single breath. Yang Solran snatched up a fallen torch, blocking his path, her expression calm but fierce. Pyo-wol yanked the sword from his side and said quietly, "Good job blocking my attack. I was lucky. I just swung where my instincts told me to." That's some great instincts. I hear that often. Their voices were unnervingly calm, two killers sharing casual words amid blood and flame. But behind that calm, both needed time. Pyo-wol to stem his bleeding. Yang Seol ran to steady her breath. Then, softly, she spoke. "Why don't you surrender? You're badly wounded. It would be better for you to give up. And if I do, will you spare me? If you'd wanted me alive, you wouldn't have attacked like that." Yang Seol Ran faltered. His words pierced deeper than his blades. Was there ever someone like him? He wasn't a martial artist, he was a dragon among assassins. How much do you know? Enough, that the abyss of the 9 calamities was behind all this. They both fell silent, regaining their calm. Pyo-wol tied his wound with torn cloth, barely enough to move again. Then Zhanghua screamed from behind them, rage burning in her one remaining eye. "Why are you talking to him? Kill him!" Now Sol ran. Zhanghua's hatred drowned all reason. At her command, Yang Seol-ran drew her stance once more, her chi surging like a storm. The air trembled around her. Pyo-wol could feel her killing intent washing over him. He'd lost the darkness as his ally, and head-on, he knew he might not win. But an assassin doesn't fight fair. He stepped back, letting the shadows swallow him again. The torchlight flickered. Wait for an opening, but before he could strike, a sword tore through the darkness. He barely blocked with his weakened right arm, and pain exploded. Bang! The impact hurled him across the chamber. He slammed into a stone wall, blood splattering from his mouth. His right arm was shredded, bone visible through torn flesh. His chest and side were slashed open, blood gushing out. Even for someone like Pyo-wol, it was a crippling blow. A figure emerged from the dark. It was Mu Jung-jin. In his hand was a long sword, the same one he had just thrown. Only Qingsheng's elders were permitted to wield such a blade. Zhanghua, clutching her bleeding eye, turned in shock. "Mu Jungjin, kill him. Don't let him live. He'll turn everything upside down." But Mu Jungjin only glanced at her coldly. "Back off." With a flick of his hand, a burst of qi sent Zhanghua flying. She hit the wall, coughing blood. "Mu Jungjin, kill him now. I'll handle this." His voice was calm, but sharp enough to silence her. He knelt before Pyo-wol, who was slumped against the wall, barely breathing. Their eyes met, one filled with fury, the other with defiant calm. "So it's you," Mu Jungjin said quietly, "the one who killed Wu Gunseng. Why? Because I'm an assassin. Even an assassin should know right from wrong. I was taken at 14, raised to kill before I even knew what right and wrong were. So you're saying you had no choice. There's no such thing as choice for someone born in hell." Mu Jungjin's expression darkened. "Then you're beyond redemption." But as he looked into Pyo-wol's eyes filled with venom, cold and unyielding, something flickered inside him. Such talent, such presence. If I had trained him myself, he could have been extraordinary. For a moment, he felt pity. Then, with resolve, he reached into his robe and drew out a letter, the same commission he'd found in Lim Seol's quarters. Pyo-wol's lips curved faintly. "So you found it? Then you know who the client was. I can guess. The same one you're thinking of." Both men turned their gaze toward the Ma Sect. Zhanghua froze. Pyo-wol's bloody grin gleamed in the firelight. A chill ran down her spine. No, it can't be, she finally realized. It was no coincidence that only the Qingcheng and Ma sects had entered this place. Pyo-wol had planned it all, drawing the hunters and the betrayers into the same trap. His mad laughter echoed through the underground, a sound that twisted through the tunnels like the whisper of a demon. Seeing Pyo-wol grinning even in his ruined state, Mu Jungjin's eyebrows twitched upward. "We must get rid of him immediately." Fear crept into Mu Jungjin's heart. Assassins like Pyo-wol did not know fear. More than his martial skill, Pyo-wol possessed an aura that provoked dread in others. It was the first time Mu Jungjin had ever encountered someone like him. "Master, are you all right?" The disciples of the Qingcheng sect, including Xingming, rushed toward Mu Jungjin. Their bodies were covered in wounds from the traps Pyoul had set. Mujongjin's face darkened when he noticed that several disciples were missing. "Where are the others?" "I apologize," Qingming said, lowering his head. "We fell into his traps, some lost their lives." Mujongjin closed his eyes tightly. When he opened them again, an overwhelming pressure radiated from him. Even the Ime disciples, including Zhenghua, instinctively stepped back. Without a word, Mujongjin grabbed Pyoul by the ankle and began dragging him away. Pyoul stopped laughing and vomited blood. The crimson liquid splattered across his chest and stomach. The pain was excruciating, but he didn't care. He was in a good mood. He had successfully planted a spark of strife between the Qingcheng and Amei sects. Whether they ended up in a bloody war or an uneasy truce didn't matter. Their relationship could never return to what it once was. "A painless death is too much of a mercy for you," he said coldly. "You will suffer and die in agony, as atonement for those you've slain." His voice stabbed into Pyoul's ears. "Atonement. Don't make me laugh. Then who will atone for the 7 years stolen from me?" Pyoul sneered faintly. His back scraped against the ground, his body broken and torn, but he felt no pain. He had already endured worse. Mujongjin dragged him toward the instructor's quarters, specifically, the late Lim Seol's residence. Mujongjin dragged Pyoul through the collapsed wall into a hidden space within Lim Seol's residence. A chilling hiss echoed as they entered. The disciples recoiled as torchlight revealed a massive pit teeming with snakes. The sight of countless serpents writhing together was enough to make their blood run cold. Only then did they realize Mujongjin's intention. He planned to throw Pyoul into the snake pit. "You still refuse to repent?" Mujongjin asked. Pyoul's cracked lips twisted upward into a faint smile, a sneer. Mujongjin shook his head. "You are unworthy of life. Die here, and let your suffering be your atonement." He lifted Pyoul's body and hurled him into the pit. Unable to bear the sight, the Qingqing disciples turned away. Within seconds, the mass of snakes engulfed Pyoul completely. "Let's go," Mujongjin said coldly. "Yes, master." None of them looked back as they left, though the sound of serpents feeding echoed behind them. A wet, slithering chorus of horror. "As soon as we're out," Mujongjin ordered, "seal this place. No one must ever enter again." A sharp gleam flashed in his eyes. "Ma Sect, I will never forgive you." The only proof he had was Pyoul's words and a single letter, but Mujongjin no longer doubted it. The Ma Sect was behind everything. Pyoul, now nothing more than snake feed, no longer mattered. His vengeance was set. "Ime Sect, soon you will learn that the sword of Qingcheng has not rusted." The snakes, awakened from long hibernation, were starving. If he had been smaller, they would have swallowed him whole. Unable to do so, they bit him instead. Venom seeped into his body, dozens of different poisons mixing and clashing inside him. Pyoul's body convulsed violently. The pain was beyond imagination, a torment that made death seem merciful. A normal person would have died instantly, but Pyoul's body, hardened by past exposure to toxins, resisted. He could not die easily. Even as he writhed in agony, his body instinctively fought to survive. He forced himself to remain calm. Then, faintly, a sound escaped his lips, a hiss. The snakes froze. Tens of thousands of heads lifted in eerie unison. But Pyoul didn't flinch. His mind was utterly focused on imitating them. Pyoul understood this instinctively now. As he mimicked them, his body learned. He marveled inwardly. The snake, efficient, patient, merciless, was a perfect survivor, just like him. The fear he once felt toward them vanished. Even as he lay buried beneath thousands of snakes, he felt no discomfort, only stillness. For the first time in a long while, Pyoul closed his eyes and slept, peacefully amid the serpents. Hunger came, and he caught one of the snakes biting him, crushing its head between his teeth. The fishy taste of its flesh did not repel him. After so long without food, he felt ecstasy. Survival demanded it, and in the snake pit, it was no sin to eat the weak to sustain the strong. Life had become instinct. The snake's survival instincts merged with his own. Though he could now leave the pit, he chose to stay. Observation and adaptation were more valuable than escape. Time lost all meaning in the black pit. Hair and beard had grown long. He exhaled and shifted his body. The snakes surged, but he moved confidently among them. Swelling and wounds were gone. His limbs responded with fluid strength, moving like a serpent in water. For the first time, he emerged from the pit. The rope he had used to descend was gone, likely taken by the sects. Escape was impossible, at least for now. I have to grow stronger. Facing Mujongjin had shown him the vast gulf in martial prowess. Even a sneak attack would have failed. He had to develop his strength, his skill, his every ability to confront such opponents confidently. He was the master of this space, cut off from the world. Survival here was simple: eat snakes, study, and grow. He moved toward the area where he had fought the MEI disciples. Their bodies remained scattered. Only bones and clothing survived, flesh devoured by worms. Among them, he found a booklet. A second-generation disciple, Gong Un, had carried it with him. Pyoul had defeated him, and now the copy was his. He had no way of knowing how long he had been here. Long hair and a shaggy beard told him he had spent an extended period in this underground prison. Most would have gone insane within days in such a place. Pyoel had preserved his mind, or perhaps he had already gone mad without realizing it. It no longer mattered. Every day he had practiced the sub-thunder snake method, assimilated with the snakes, and studied martial arts. Life had been a monotonous treadmill. Now, at a certain level, it was almost impossible to tell where Pyoel ended and the snake began. He breathed like them, saw like them, and even, at times, absorbed oxygen through his skin. These changes had not been intentional. They came naturally. He moved silently, capable of passing through narrow openings without sound. The sub-thunder snake method had granted more than physical mimicry. His mind accelerated, his thoughts broadened, and his body reacted instantaneously to his intellect. Reflexes and abilities surpassed normal human limits. Batang was a city nestled in the western reaches of Sichuan province, the very threshold of the Western Highlands. A broad river, over 20 meters wide, flowed before its gates, and beyond its walls, the highlands rose like a folding screen. Batang was the largest city within 100 li around. Though most of its residents were natives of Kang County, there were also many Han Chinese settlers. Despite its remoteness, the city thrived. Fertile lands and abundant trade drew merchants year-round. Inns, taverns, and brothels flourished in its streets. "Best if you come quietly," one of them muttered. Two men grabbed his arms and pulled, but his body didn't move, not even an inch. The man rose slowly to his feet. A crimson silk robe slipped down, covering Seohyun's bare body. Ignoring the stunned warriors, Seohyun threw her arms around the man's waist, pressing herself against his back. To the onlookers, the sight was surreal, a courtesan clinging to a stranger like a devoted wife. The man's quiet voice filled the tense air. "I'll be leaving in 3 days. Until then, stay out of my sight." His tone was low, smooth, like the whisper of a snake coiling around prey. The warriors froze. Even GMC-Yon, the madam of the Red Sky Pavilion, felt her pulse quicken. It was as if a giant serpent had appeared among them, its unseen fangs poised to strike. The man who stared them down was Pyoel. As Pyoel turned to close the door, an older warrior barked out, "What trickery is this? What did you do to my men? Undo it at once." "They'll wake in a day or two," Pyoel replied flatly. "Don't waste my time." During his 7 years underground, Pyoel had perfected countless assassination methods, techniques of killing without leaving a trace. What the warriors had suffered was merely a diluted version of one. If he'd wished, none of them would be breathing now. "Do you even know who you're offending?" the elder shouted. "We are warriors of Cheongok Guan." The name was unfamiliar. None of the sects who took part in the inescapable net against him bore that name, which meant it was insignificant. Even if they weren't, it made no difference. He was not the same powerless boy from years ago. The elder flushed red. "How dare you mock us? I don't know what tricks you used, but you'll regret it." He charged forward, sword drawn. The other warriors followed. A red gleam flickered in Pyoel's eyes. He thrust out his hands. To the untrained eye, it looked like nothing, just an idle motion. Then, the warriors stumbled mid-stride, clutching their chests as agony tore through them. One by one, they fell to the floor, faces blackening, gasping for air. He didn't even touch them. Only true masters could release qi so freely, and even in Sichuan, there were few who could. "Please forgive them, they didn't know who they were facing." Her survival instinct screamed, this was not a man to oppose. Pyoel looked down at her with empty eyes. Then, a pale hand touched his chest. "Seol Yang." She gazed up at him, her voice soft and pleading. "Please forgive Sion Oni, she means no harm." He said nothing for a moment. Then, quietly, "Fine." He flicked his hand. The warriors gasped as their pain vanished instantly. 3 days, that's all I ask. Tell your master not to disturb me until then." For 3 days straight, he had been with Seohyang, locked away in her chamber, away from the world. He had spent 7 years as a raised assassin. Then another 7 trapped in that underground cave after Mujongjin's ambush. 14 years of darkness, 14 years of isolation, only brief moments of light. During the assassination of Wu Gunsang and his desperate escape from the inescapable net, the rest of his life had been swallowed by the dark. Anyone else would have gone insane. But Pyoel endured. Now, freed from that abyss, his hunger, both physical and primal, surged uncontrollably. His very presence radiated something feral. He didn't know it, but his body exuded a subtle, intoxicating scent that drove women to madness. The stronger his emotions, the more potent it became. When Seohyung brought him into her room, she had unknowingly fallen into the snare of that scent and into his hands. Now, completely tamed, she could no longer imagine being with another man. Rumors spread quickly through Padang. Some said a high official had bought out the entire Red Sky Pavilion. Others whispered that a powerful stranger had sealed the brothel himself. Whatever the truth, the Red Sky Pavilion remained closed for 3 full days. When it finally reopened, Seohyung's service resumed, her eyes now softer, her demeanor subdued. She helped him dress, not in the tattered garments he had worn from the cave, but in a jonui she had specially commissioned from a master tailor. At that moment, a middle-aged woman approached, owner of the Red Sky Pavilion. She bowed and handed Pyo-wol a small packed container. I packed a few things for you to eat on the road. It should fill your stomach. The storm's passed. What a mess. Where do you think he's headed? How would I know? But I do know this. A terrifying killer has appeared in Zhonghu. After leaving Batang, Pyo-wol traveled east toward Guangdong. All roads in Sichuan province eventually led to Chengdu, the cultural and martial heart of the region. That was his destination. He intended to go there to learn more about the Qingcheng and Aimei sects. 7 years had passed, yet Pyo-wol's resentment toward them had never faded for even a single day. He could have chosen to live quietly. After all, 7 years was long enough for the world to forget him. Everyone believed Pyo-wol was dead and buried. If he stayed still, he could live peacefully, unseen and unbothered. But that wasn't who he was. The world may have forgotten him, but he could never forget the past. For 14 years, he had been trapped in darkness, living worse than an animal. That kind of life could not be erased. He knew that if he didn't confront his past, he could never move forward. And Pyo-wol was not someone who let grudges go. Footsteps echoed through the rain. Someone was approaching. After a while, figures appeared at the entrance of the tomb. Ah, damn, I'm soaked. I told you to hurry, you slowpoke. At least we found this tomb. Stop arguing. The trio who stumbled in, drenched to the bone, made an odd sight: a woman in her mid-20s, a Taoist in his early 60s, and a middle-aged Buddhist monk. As soon as they entered, the woman hiked up her wet robe and snapped, "My underwear's all wet. What am I supposed to do now, Godosa? Why are you asking me? It's not my fault you got soaked. It is your fault. You're the one who got us lost. Take responsibility." The monk sighed, pressing his palms together. "Amitabha Buddha, merciful one, why must I travel with these two of all people?" "You talk like you're normal, but you're not," the woman shot back. The monk closed his eyes in defeat while she smirked triumphantly. Her wet clothes clung to her, outlining a bewitching figure. Then she noticed Pyo-wol. "Oh, someone's here." At her words, both men turned. "Oh, someone beat us to it." The woman's eyes sparkled. "You're so handsome, Oriboni. To meet such a fine man out here, what luck." "This is my luck," Godosa grumbled. "You should be thanking me." "Shut up." Unfazed by them, Pyo-wol stayed silent. The woman approached, grinning. "I'm Hyoranju. What's your name?" "Pyo-wol." "Oh, what a cool name," Godosa groaned. "There she goes again, flirting the moment she sees a good-looking man." "Still," the monk added, "he really is handsome. Even a man might fall for him." "All filthy and handsome, the worst combination," Godosa muttered, though admiration flickered in his eyes. Pyo-wol's appearance was undeniably striking, dangerously so. Hyoranju moved closer. "So, where's this handsome Oriboni headed?" "Chengdu." "What a coincidence. We're going to Chengdu too. We should travel together, save on expenses, keep each other company, and, of course, you get me as a bonus." She winked playfully. Pyo-wol regarded the three of them with a calm, unreadable gaze. Their persistence was unusual. Most people recoiled from his cold demeanor, but these three didn't. They're skilled, he thought. Hyoranju seemed unarmed, but the dark object at her waist was a whip. Its gleam and texture revealed fine craftsmanship. Godosa carried a sword on his back, and Hyol-sung held a metal staff with rings. Their stances formed a perfect triangle, the ideal formation for a pincer attack. It wasn't conscious positioning, it was habit, ingrained by long experience fighting together. Their center is Hyoranju, Pyo-wol realized. Though the three appeared equal, she naturally led them. Godosa and Hyol-sung might grumble, but they obeyed her without hesitation. They were disciplined, united, but Pyo-wol sensed that she wasn't the true leader. There's someone above them, he thought, someone strong enough to command them all. That person must have great authority or overwhelming power, perhaps both. Since their destination was also Chengdu, Pyo-wol knew he'd learn the truth in time. Hyoranju smiled, leaning closer. "So, handsome Oriboni, join us. I'll treat you well." "Fine," Pyo-wol said calmly. "Let's go together. It's faster to take a boat from here." Godosa pointed toward the dock. After leaving the Guanjian tomb, Pyo-wol followed Godosa's group. Godosa knew the geography well. He always seemed to know where to go, so Pyo-wol didn't have to worry about getting lost. "Why is our handsome Oriboni going to Chengdu?" Hyoranju sidled up to Pyo-wol. With each step, her large chest brushed his elbow. Whether she noticed or not, she looked at him with an innocent expression. "I want to meet someone I know." "Someone you know? Who?" "Lots of people." "Who the hell are they?" "Debtors." "Debtors? You're in debt." "No, they owe me, so you're going to collect." "Yes, those bad bastards. Why aren't they paying our handsome Oriboni? Tell me who they are. I'll take them all." Hyoranju was furious, as if she were the creditor. "Why are you going to Chengdu?" "We're going on business, without any goods. We're not selling things you can see. Can you guess what we're selling?" "No, thanks. Why not? I feel like my mouth will be stitched shut if I hear the answer." Hyol-sung glanced at Pyo-wol and Hyoranju. Godosa smirked briefly. "It's always a calculated act. I get scared whenever she does that." "Is it really calculated? What are you saying? I actually thought she liked him." Don't be ridiculous. Do you think the Blood Lord of the Heavens would be swayed by a man? He'd have to try very hard to get any useful information. Go-Dosa's eyes toward Pyoul were cold. This was an important time. Even the smallest variable was unacceptable. The deck and dock were piled high with grain. He had never seen so much rice. A Taoist nearby said, "Isn't this too much? It's rice from last year heading to Chengdu. All the products of Sichuan gather there. Rice too. With this amount, hundreds could eat for a year." Although called a rice carrier, the ship took passengers on spare seats. People chatted, some serious, some smiling. Pyoul watched them quietly. Most were ordinary folk with no ties to martial arts. Pyoul knew how hard a normal life in Zhenghu could be and felt that they were fortunate. Hyo Ranju noticed his stare. "What are you looking at?" "Oh, nothing." "Huh, so you have a sentimental side." "That's the first I've heard." "Really, you look sentimental to me." "If you're gonna talk nonsense, shut up. It hurts my ears." She looked wounded, but then clung to his arm as if nothing happened. "That's cuter. I'm melting. Shall we go somewhere private?" "Where?" "Where people can't see us." She pressed her chest to his elbow. "I'll think about it after we disembark." "Sheesh, you're so proper. Still attractive, though." Suddenly, a strange sound reached Pyoul's ears. At first faint, then growing louder. No one else seemed to hear it. He frowned and stared ahead. A ship was approaching at speed, oars churning. The sound was the rhythm of rowing. "What is that?" someone cried. "Another ship." The sailors who spotted it late trembled. The approaching vessels were armed. The captain's face twisted. "Damn it, we're outnumbered." "Oh my God!" The passengers panicked. The attackers were after the rice. Greed shone in their eyes. The rice carrier sped up, sails full, trying to shake them off, but the oared ships closed fast. Time narrowed the gap. The captain made a decision. "Everyone, arm yourselves. Protect the rice at all costs." The sailors grabbed harpoons and swords, trembling with fear. Recently, raiders had targeted rice carriers more often, not only stealing grain, but killing. The transport route had been plagued. This isn't an area they usually hit. "Did they advance this far?" the captain muttered. Go-Dosa approached the captain and waved a bottle. "Looks like you're in a bit of trouble." "Who are you?" "It doesn't matter who I am. What matters is what I can do." He began bargaining with a grin. "How much to protect the rice? Tell me." Go-Dosa gestured to Hyo Ranju and Hyo Sung standing behind him. "Fine. If you protect both the rice and the people, I'll pay 100 niang." "No. Who risks their life for only 100 niang?" "Then 200, 500. That's outrageous. That's enough to buy 3% of the rice on board. Isn't that cheap for saving all your rice and your lives?" "Daylight robbery," the captain wavered. "Fine. If you really defeat them, you'll get 500 yang." The enemies were preparing to board with weapons in hand. Amitabha Buddha, Blessed One, forgive this sinful disciple. He kicked off the deck and soared into the air, flipping before crashing down onto the enemy ship. The vessel rocked violently, nearly capsizing. The raiders lost balance and stumbled. Careful, he looked strong. They charged cautiously. Hyo Sung struck the deck with his palms. The ship quaked like an earthquake. This time they braced themselves, barely keeping their footing. Then, a section of the deck exploded, water gushing through the hole. He had smashed open the hull. "Kill him!" The bandits rushed in. Hyo Seong thrust both palms forward. The front line was blasted backward into the river, unmoving as the waves rolled over them. "You lunatic." Everyone, attack together. They charged again, furious. Bones broke. Two more flew into the air, smashing into the water. Hyo Seong's strikes were merciless, raw power and precision combined. Even the few with martial training couldn't stand against him. Block with a hand and it broke. Block with a sword and both weapon and bones shattered. It was sheer destruction. The sailors and passengers, who moments ago trembled in fear, now looked on in horrified sympathy. A massive explosion shook the air. Silence followed. Only Yale Sung remained standing on the enemy ship. Every raider was gone, bodies sinking beneath the waves. Their leader had lasted only moments before being crushed and thrown overboard. Yale Sung leapt back to the rice carrier as the enemy vessel sank completely. The passengers and sailors stared in awe and fear. Hyo Sung simply brushed off his robes, unbothered. "Good work, Hyo Sung. Amitabha, next time, let Ranju handle it. She never listens to me anyway. I'm lucky if she doesn't curse me." Go-Dosa laughed and approached the captain, hand outstretched. "Well, the job's done. Time to settle the bill. Here you go." He looked around. "Where's that woman?" Hyo Sung pointed toward Pyoul. Go-Dosa frowned. "You told her to observe him, not seduce him." She ignored him, leaning close to Pyoul. "When we get to Chengdu, do you have a place to stay? If not, come with us. I'm more comfortable alone." "You're strange. Most men don't reject a beautiful woman. Even a rose has thorns." Her smile twitched. Still, she giggled sweetly. "But it's still pretty, only on the surface." "Wow! You're so cruel. My poor heart." She clutched her chest dramatically, pretending to faint. Pyoul remained cold. He'd seen Hyo-sun's destructive power. Impressive, even if the enemies weren't elite. And though he hadn't witnessed them fight, he could tell Go-Dosa and Hyo Ranju were just as capable. Beneath her revealing clothes, faint scars crossed her chest, deep, life-threatening ones. More marks lined her forearms. Those weren't training wounds. They were born of life and death battles. Mercenaries, Pyo realized. They're selling their skills, demonstrating for a future employer. The raiders were nothing but fodder for their show. So there's conflict in Chengdu, enough to hire freelance killers. A faint smile touched his lips. Chengdu, the heart of Sichuan. Under normal circumstances, neither the Aimei nor the Qingcheng sects would allow unrest there. If conflict was brewing, it meant both were too weak or divided to stop it. Maybe, after 7 long years, the seeds of chaos he once planted had finally begun to sprout. Poywol smiled again, a quiet, chilling smile. His beauty at that moment was almost terrifying. The journey to Chengdu was uneventful. Even the enemies had lost their will to fight after hearing news of their comrades' slaughter. The rice carrier finally anchored at a dock not far from Chengdu. From here on, they would have to travel by land. Wagons were already waiting to load the rice at the dock. What about you? What will you do now? We're heading straight to Chengdu. I'll stay here for a day. It was already evening, and there was no reason to rush. Go-Dosa looked a bit disappointed. Then I guess we part ways here. We have to arrive in Chengdu by tomorrow morning. Can't you come with us? Hyo Ranju asked with a pitiful expression. I have some preparations to make. What preparations? I'll help. Let's just go together. I need to do it alone. Ho Ranju clicked her tongue and pouted, clearly displeased, but her expression wasn't enough to move Pyowal's heart. I'll contact you later when I reach Chengdu, he said. Really? Yes. Her face brightened instantly at his answer. The three of them then bought horses from a nearby market and departed for Chengdu. Left alone, Pyowal looked around for a guest house. Since the dock was a busy trading hub, there were many large inns and guest houses catering to merchants and travelers. The one Pyowal chose was already bustling with people, most of them traders or martial artists eating together. As Pyowal entered, a waiter greeted him. Welcome! Will it be a meal or lodging? Both. Staying the night and dining, very good. We do have a room left, but it's a bit pricey. How much? 10 coins for the room, 2 for the meal. As you can see, the hall is full, so you'll have to wait a little for food. Pyowal silently counted out the coins. Pyowal found an empty seat and sat down. Hey look, that guy's prettier than a girl. Are you sure he's a man? Maybe it's a woman disguised as one. Nearby martial artists whispered and laughed. They weren't the only ones. Almost everyone in the room was stealing glances at Pyowal. Pyowal began to eat slowly with the chopsticks. At first, they felt awkward in his hand. It had been more than 14 years since he'd last used them. He fumbled several times, but soon adjusted. Hey, you're a guy, right? A large man stomped over to his table. His sleeveless top exposed thick, muscular arms and a scarred chest. His face was brutish, ugly enough to make anyone flinch. Pyowal looked up, chopsticks still in hand. The man grinned, showing yellow teeth. My name's Jang Wurak, member of the Gujin Escort Company. I made a bet with my friends. If you strip and have a pepper, they'll each pay me a silver coin. Jang Wurak jerked his chin toward a nearby table. Several men from the Gujin Escort Company were watching, laughing crudely. So which side did you take? Pyowal asked calmly. I said you were a woman disguised as a man. I'm sorry you'll lose that silver. So you're a man, huh? You better fix those eyes. Can't you see? Jang Wurak's laugh was vile. Come on, take it off. Let me check. If you do, I'll buy you a drink. One of his companions jeered. The others howled with laughter. The rest of the guests looked on with curiosity. They knew the Gujin Escort Company men were troublemakers, but it wasn't their concern. Besides, the scene was entertaining. They wondered, how would the pretty stranger react? Cry, beg, scream? Jang Wurak leaned closer. Jang Wurak's scream cut through the room. A pair of chopsticks was embedded in his eye. Blood dripped down his cheek as he writhed in agony. Pyowal rose from his seat, voice cold. If you can't see what's in front of you, it's better you lose your eyes. I'll take the other one now. The giant stumbled back in panic. But Pyowal was already moving, silent and fluid as a shadow. Then Jang Wurak saw his eyes. Serpent's eyes, emotionless, unreadable, terrifying. That was the last thing he saw. Darkness consumed him, you bastard. One of his comrades roared, drawing his sword. Before he could even swing, he collapsed screaming, chopsticks buried in his shoulder. Another fell, and another. No one even saw Pyowal move. The Gujin Escort Company was no minor group. Its men were skilled enough to earn respect in Sichuan. But in an instant, their top fighters were disabled. You crazy bastard. Do you know who we are? Shouted Gongjin Hyuk, the oldest among them. But Pyowal was already in front of him. Gongjin Hyuk froze. He hadn't seen him move, and now those empty eyes were staring right into his soul. The atmosphere in Chengdu sure is brutal. Half the people on the streets carried weapons. Normally, martial artists made up only a tiny fraction of a city's population, 1 or 2 in 100 at most. But in Chengdu, nearly every other person was armed. It spoke of chaos and fear. It's a great opportunity for us. Other people's misfortune is our fortune. Tragic, isn't it? I don't want to hear that from you, you greedy monk. Why not? Who do you think's the most money-hungry among us? You're so stingy you don't even make offerings to Buddha. Forgive this wicked soul. You're hopeless. Enough jokes. Let's go meet the captain. You know he doesn't like waiting. At the mention of captain, both Hyo Ranju and Hyo Sung's expressions hardened. They quickly followed Go. Their destination was Chengdu's largest inn. Though still early morning, the place was bustling with travelers eating breakfast. Hyo Ranju's eyes brightened when she spotted a familiar figure. Captain! The man looked up from his meal. He appeared to be in his mid to late 40s, with sharp eyes and an air of command. Vice Captain, he greeted, right on time. Captain, it's been too long. She hugged him warmly, and he patted her back. Go and Hyul-sung arrived soon after. It's good to see you, Captain. It's been a while, the man smiled faintly. We finally gathered again. I take it there's a big job waiting for us. Didn't you rest well enough thanks to me? That's the problem, I've run out of money. Zhang Muryang, the man before them, was the leader of the Black Cloud Corps, a mercenary group that sold its blades to the highest bidder. They fought in border conflicts, switching sides as money dictated. They were in Chengdu because Zhang Muryang smelled profit. Is this about the Qingcheng and Amei sects? You've heard then, Zhang Muryang said. Who hasn't? Those two have been at each other's throats for years. Exactly, and it's about to explode. For several years, the Qingcheng and Amei sects, two great pillars of Sichuan's martial world, had been locked in escalating conflict. What began as small skirmishes between disciples had grown into open warfare. Every sect in Sichuan was forced to take sides. The region had split in two. Heo Ranju asked, but why are they even fighting? They're both respected sects. All Zhang Muryang smiled. Vice Captain, does the reason matter? What matters is that we have a chance to make our dreams come true. His grin widened. The war that would devastate Sichuan was, to him and the Black Cloud Corps, a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. By the time the sun rose, Pyowo came downstairs to the guest house's first floor. The Nine Treasures escort corps had already departed, leaving the place eerily quiet. When Pyowo appeared, the innkeeper flinched. The chaos from the previous night, all because of him, still lingered in the man's mind. The escort corps' leader had left with hollow eyes, one of his men blinded, the rest battered and broken. Even if he wanted revenge, he knew better. Charging at Pyowo again would only bring more loss. So they left Chengdu quietly, choosing survival over pride. Pyowo approached the trembling innkeeper. The man's voice shook as he looked at him, beauty masking something utterly terrifying. Pyowo asked, who here knows best about the internal affairs of Sichuan? By internal affairs, what exactly do you mean? The relationships among the sects. Then you should visit Workshop Street. Head left after leaving the inn and go straight. At the end, you'll see a sign for the Fire Dragon Room. That's the place. It's a guild of artisans formed long ago. They do business with every sect in Sichuan. If anyone knows what's happening between them, it's those folks. Buy a weapon from them, and they'll gladly share what they know. Pyowo nodded and made his way to Workshop Street. The street was alive with the sound of hammering metal. Pyowo paused for a moment, listening. Each strike told a different story, some heavy and sure, others dull or thin. Then, among the chaos, he heard a rhythm so clear it stood out. He followed it to its source, the Fire Dragon Room. Inside, the air shimmered with heat. A young man in his early 20s was hammering away at glowing metal, completely focused, unaware of Pyowo's presence. Each strike reshaped the iron with steady precision. Suddenly, a man with a goatee stormed in, shouting, "Hey, you bastard! Who told you to touch that hammer?" He kicked the young man hard, sending him sprawling. "I told you, never touch the hammer here, just do your errands." He stomped on him again and again, but the young man endured it in silence, his eyes burning with restrained fury. Damn brat. Still won't talk, huh? Finally, out of breath, the man stopped. "You're banned from the forge for now. Go to the back and do chores until I call you." The young man, Tong Sochu, dusted himself off and left quietly. The goated man grumbled, then noticed Pyowo standing there. Heh, didn't realize a customer was watching. "What brings you here today? What did that man do wrong? Claims to be a descendant of the Tong family. Keeps trying to use the hammer without permission. Can't the Tong family forge weapons? You must be new to Sichuan. The Tong family was destroyed ages ago, sided with the demon sect, they say. Because of that, they were crushed by the so-called strongest under heaven, and their line vanished. To the sects of Sichuan, the Tang family are traitors. No smith will ever teach their art to one of them again. Even using the Tang surname carried a curse, suspicion, exile, even punishment. Whether Tang Sochu truly bore that bloodline or not, no one cared. The man with the goatee, Buntaju, had only beaten Sochu out of spite, a way to vent his gambling losses from the night before. "So, the descendants pay for the sins of their ancestors," Pyowo murmured. "Who told them to side with demons? They made their bed. Anyway, what did you come to buy? Our workshop supplies weapons to most sects in Sichuan. My work, in particular, is famous. You won't regret your purchase. Business must be good lately. Ever since the Imei and Qingcheng sects started clashing, orders have doubled. The province may be in chaos, but we're thriving." Pyowo listened quietly. Each boast carried valuable information about which factions were buying weapons and where loyalties lay. Here we are, the finest flying swords in Sichuan. Choose whichever you like. Pyo will examine them all, though none particularly appealed to him. He wasn't here for weapons, only for information. He bought two well-crafted blades anyway and paid without complaint, unaware that the price was deliberately inflated. As he left, Buntaju grinned to himself. Pretty boy and a pushover. Still, I'd kill to have a face like that for a day. Thank you for watching. Subscribe and enable notifications so you don't miss the next chapter.